Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Film School Show. My name is Jared, here again with my co-founder of many companies, co-host of the Wedding Film School Show, Jason McCutcheon.
How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man. Keeping it together. Playing a lot of golf these days. I know there's a lot of wedding filmmakers out there who are golf guys.
I thought wedding filmmakers were all broke.
Well, you know what? No.
No,
the
they're
answer is
not.
no. Because we're charging for NDAs. That is the
That's
reason why we can.
I heard you got roasted about NDAs this week.
Yeah, you know, it's just I really
You
haven't.
greedy capitalist.
I know, because God forbid we make money trying to do our craft. But yeah. For another topic we could talk about, I really haven't been in even our group a whole lot lately. I haven't really been stirring the pot, I guess, a whole lot. But I think, someone posted and I was like, honestly, this is an option for you. And, some people don't like that option. So
Odd to me, like when people pick the most randomest stuff to be offended by.
I know. But what really gets me is when people are like, I'm better than you. I'm more of a moral person because I don't charge for an NDA. And I'm like, I mean, it's a business decision. I get it. But anyways, I digress.
Funny.
We have a wonderful guest on today that I'm
do.
very excited about. And he's been gracious enough to come on. Do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes. So if you don't know about the How to Film Weddings podcast / everything else that goes into that universe, it's a thing that John Bunn and Nick Miller started, I think, 7 years ago. And basically, I would say in our space, in the wedding film education space, they're kind of like market leaders / trendsetters / kind of did something that's never been done before in education, at least in our space. And recently, they kind of, I don't want to say totally closed up shop because John and Nick are still making stuff and doing stuff. And they're, if you've enjoyed learning from them, you can still do that. But at the end of the day, they made some changes, made major shifts, and the podcast, I think they're officially ending it and a bunch of other stuff. And honestly, like, I just felt like as a wedding film, like whatever I am called in the industry, I'm just a wedding filmmaker at the end of the day. And so like their presence in the industry has kind of been a major component of what it is to be a wedding filmmaker. And now that's gone, and that's interesting to me. And I figured I'd like to hear from John himself about that topic, about like, hey, what it's meant to him, what it's been like on that journey. And I think a lot of wedding filmmakers don't really realize how undeveloped that side of our vertical is compared to photography. And I think they just kind of assumed like, either everything is like the way we have it or everything is like How to Film Weddings. But in reality, no, it's not what it is. And so I wanted to have John on and hear from himself. So John, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm great, and I'm humbled to be here back on the show again. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Good to hear about your golf game, Jared. Good to hear about all the things going on.
Jay,
excited to chat today.
That was the longest intro for a person I've ever heard in my life.
Well, it's not an intro.
I had to sit here for a minute.
Yeah. It's an intro for a moment.
Yes, you're right.
A moment in our shared universe. So,
John, are you a golfer?
I would say that lightly. I have
Yes.
I have shot in the 60s before. So
Okay.
That was on just the front nine, of course.
Yeah, of
but
course. Yeah,
of course. The dad joke, golfing joke. No, I love golf. Tiger Woods stepped on my foot one time, so that's kind of like my claim to fame.
Okay, yeah.
The PGA comes to Tulsa
late
a lot.
Tiger Woods
so
or early Tiger Woods? Which aura rubbed off on you?
2001 Tiger Woods stepped
greatness.
on
The greatness rubbed off on you.
Yes.
yeah, so that's, I mean, I don't want to like say that I'm successful, but if part of it, rubbed off, that might be what I attribute some of these success
I would say
to.
so.
So thanks Tiger. Appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Tiger.
No.
Definitely. Well, John, thank you for being gracious enough to come on and talk a little bit about, the directions that you and Nick are going. I think probably what a lot of people would initially just see the podcast comes up, I forget what the final episode was called, but essentially just we're ending How to Film Weddings. I think the average viewer might be like, oh, something happened. There's a rift. Do you want to address that kind of first and foremost?
Sure.
Like, what are you guys doing? You know, what kind of caused you guys to?
I should have had Nick on too.
I know, definitely. Maybe
I can
in the
speak
future.
by myself.
Yes,
No, I'm
yes.
kidding. That's funny.
But what kind of caused you guys to make this decision?
Yeah, and I know that for the listener, it's like we started about 2 years ago having the conversation of like the industry is much different than February of 2018 when we started this. There was, the whole landscape has changed. We've done what we wanted to do. We wanted to help wedding film education be a thing. We wanted to kind of pave the way and pioneer for other people to come up from behind us. And there were other channels at that time, or had been other channels, wedding film school, like different things. And about 2 years ago, I just started feeling like a pull, in a different direction, and we were in the middle of a mastermind group and courses and all these different things. And it's not like you can just be like, I think I'm good. And I really took time to chew on what was that. Is that a gas bubble? Was that God? Was that, what was going on? And I just brought it straight to Nick like 2 years ago. Hey, I'm just letting you know that like sooner than later, I'm wanting to do these kinds of things, and feel like we've done at that point 250 episodes or so. It's like 300 episodes, and it's like, okay. And so, yeah, like 2 years ago, we started having that conversation. And then this year in January, we decided we're going to not do a mastermind group. We decided we need to take a year off. It was our 5th year of doing one, and that was content and coaching every week for a year for a group.
By the way, I don't know how you guys do that.
It was a lot. And I think a lot of people, don't realize the energy that goes into that. Whereas last year I only shot 7 weddings, the year before only 2. And I felt myself getting away from the thing that I love doing, which was shooting weddings. And I've seen a lot of educators go down that path, which I sooner than later will stop shooting weddings. I mean, but right now, as a 40-year-old that is in the best physical condition I've been in my entire life, I'm kidding. It's like I want to shoot more. I want to do more on my own. Like me and Nick, it's everything together. He's like a brother. We've had ups, we've had downs. We've been through everything. We've been through big paychecks. We've been through rough months, all in between. And so at the beginning of the year, we said, we think this is the time to like maybe make it through June, maybe make it through the end of the year. Let's just pray about it. Let's put, let's chew on it. And, Nick, a little more reluctant at the beginning, it was my thought, hey, I want to do this. And we had a really good thing going at this point. It's the #1 platform as in downloads and Facebook groups and all that kind of stuff for a lot of different things, which was great. But the goal for us was never be like #1 or biggest, or like the goal for us was to elevate the wedding industry. And that was our mission from the beginning. It's like, we want to elevate the industry. And about January, we decided not to do the mastermind group. Let's take a year, see where we're at. And I said, let's do the podcast. Let's just do this till March and see where we're at. And maybe I'm like, we'll feel refreshed towards how to film weddings after not doing a mastermind group every week. And, when we were doing our mastermind group, it would be 2 different 2-hour calls every Tuesday, every single person getting a mentorship session, film reviews, like all these things you don't see on the channel. And even after 3 months, I was like, Nick, I feel like end of June, it's like, it's the time. And we got to like May, and I was like, I really think let's run through the summer and see, and then we decided, hey, August 1st. And so we had a long time going into it. And Nick at that point, had really jumped on board, like really excited about the transition. I wasn't going to leave Nick hanging. I was like, I'll do this till I die. I'm not going to leave you. But I kind of felt like, I said it on our podcast, like The Office after Michael Scott was gone just became like, it wasn't The Office anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel like How to Film Weddings, the education, everything was at its peak. It's the best that we could do for the last year or 2 years. And it wasn't like, I think that some people made comments like, you could tell they weren't into it for the last whatever. We were into it. I was very into it. I don't do anything without giving it my all. And I just felt like it was time. We can talk more about like why, but Nick and I both, like, it was my idea 2 years ago. I wasn't going to leave him hanging. About a year ago, he was like, yeah, I think it's the right time. And we made sure that we took our sweet, precious time to not make a quick decision. So we haven't had a fight. We're not mad at each other. I've talked to him more now that we're not doing the podcast. I saw like Boomer and Stanton's relationship, and it's like, man, I love running this business with you, but I feel like I need to go on my own and not be like co-managers, and I want to help you. You want to do YouTube. I want to do this kind of education. And then in the meantime, I added photography to what I do. So there's just all these different things. And it was just like, there's so many different, like, there's podcasts in the UK now, and there's you guys, and there's like a lot of educators have come up. And when we started, there was no workshops. There was no, Rome retreats or Sonder retreats or any of these little things, or just the wedding film workshop, all these different things that have come up, you guys events, the clarity thing, like all this stuff. And it's like, I look back and I'm like really proud of where we're at and what we're doing. And I feel like, our voice, the way it is currently speaking, is not needed like it was in 2018. This is part of the noise instead of, and so we both decided, hey, like, I have a lot of things I'm working on, I'm excited about, that I think I see things differently in the industry, and it's like, this is where I see a gap now, and that's what I'm aiming for and trying to like build towards that. So that was a long answer.
No, it's fine,
Yeah,
and it's fine,
great.
and it you kind of got me thinking about something that I think about a lot with what we do at Wedding Film School. And Jared, like me and Jared have a slightly different, like, because we haven't really monetized the channel, we can do it whenever we want, whatever we want, and that's just how it's worked out. Yeah, it's not as strategic as I would have hoped to be, but it is what it is. And one of the things that happens sometimes is we go like, I don't have anything to say about anything. Like, I'm still like if you're listening to this, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, John. So I apologize if it sounds like I'm just yammering, but if you're listening to this and you don't understand we say education, we really mean like content creators who give content that is helpful. It's like me and Jared are educating people every week in real life about how to shoot weddings in the studio, but it's coming from a place of authority. It's like, I'm your boss. I'm going to show you how to film weddings. That is not how you educate people on the internet. Even if you're in a mastermind group or you're doing a coaching call, you're not their boss. You're not their dad. Like and so you don't get to do like as much, maybe a little bit, but the kind of education where like I'll pull somebody in a room and be like, don't do that. That is unacceptable. Like, that's a great learning opportunity. One of the best ways to learn is through like real hard coaching. That isn't what we do in these spaces. And so like, if you don't have that, where you can actually give people direct feedback on their actual actions and actually be critical of the person, you're pretty much just giving knowledge and encouragement to people. That's kind of like what you end up doing. So how did you guys find, you did it so much, and you kind of referenced it a little, like, I don't know, like, I don't feel refreshed. I feel kind of burnt out on this. And was part of that, like, you just felt like, hey, about this subject or in this moment of my life, I've kind of said everything I have to say right now about it? Or do you feel like just a change of scenery was the thing?
Yeah, I think we ended on episode 416 or something. And like I mentioned, we did at least one episode a week, every week, new, never a rerun. And I'm a dude that is like, I find a system, I'm diligent. I know that over time, I'm a very big fan of like Kobe Bryant. He's the best basketball player, in my opinion. He wouldn't be who he was without MJ. I don't want to start a fight. But like knowing he had talent, but then he realized, if I go to the gym 6 hours a day instead of 2 hours a day, I'm gaining 4 hours on everybody every single day. And I'll just work that. And so I'm more prepared. So that's just like my mindset has always been like, I see the plan. Now we just got to execute it. And I don't like to do anything unless I'm doing it all all the way. And I never got to a spot where I was like, I don't have anything else to say, but I could feel myself getting to a spot where I was like, I don't think that this matters as much to the industry anymore, the way that we're doing it. So my thought was, How to Film Weddings in 2018 was like the lifeboat for so many people.
Yeah.
And in 19
Why do
and
you think
20
that
and
is?
21.
Like, sorry to interrupt, but why do you think it is
fine.
that? Because I get that sense too, with like, for instance, like BTS videos. I don't really necessarily want to make them anymore. I don't see the point. Like, why do people need to see me walk around with the camera? They know how to walk with the camera. They can watch the other video. I'm not doing it any different than I did it 2 years ago. Why do you think it is that the industry's, like, the demands of what people are looking for out of that have changed? And what have you seen change so much from maybe the consumer side?
Yeah, when we first got going, there was a lot of gatekeeping in our industry. I mean, there were people that were giving info. Craig did a great job of just like, this is the gear I use. This is why I use it. And it was just like really refreshing. I remember buying so many sliders that he recommended and different things. You know, it's like
Monopods.
yeah, all the things. And, you know, I saw with Jordan how he was, Jordan Bunch was doing, you know, Wedding Film Academy, and then the Film Mavericks became friendly with him and just kind of saw what Kaylin and Christy were doing with Venture Workshop and David was doing over at Forestry. But there wasn't like a hub for people. I mean, there was a bunch of wedding film Facebook groups, but I didn't love them. I was nervous in them. I was worried that someone was going to just rip me apart because I wasn't like a technical genius or an artistic, you know, just phenomenon or something. And I was just like, I'm making 300 grand this year and I'm not very good at the art. I could help, like, and that would be help. I mean, I'll show people what I'm doing. Like, you don't have to be the biggest artist in the world to run a successful business. There's the tension between the art and the business. And anyway, what I saw at the beginning was people just are alone. They don't have anywhere to like have a conversation they feel like can be safe. They don't have like their friends that they feel like they could talk to. And, you know, and I found Nick and I thought, Nick is interesting in a relatable way. He doesn't come across as like he knows it all. He doesn't come across as threatening. And he's making killer films. You know, they're outdoor, adventurous. At that point, you know, that was the big thing in 2018 to 20. And I was over here just doing ballrooms and, you know, understanding the business. And I was like, this is a really good 1-2 punch. Like the business side of it, the creative side, he can help me, I can help him. Let's just do this in front of a camera. What it has evolved into, like where the industry is at now, to answer your question, Jason, like, I think that back then, everyone was really hungry for just somebody talk to me, show me how to do this. I need community. There was not educators with it. Like there was Venture Workshop. There was a couple other like things and you'd go and you'd be like so fulfilled. And it's like, why doesn't something exist where people can, you know, shoot the stuff during the week or like take an editing break or, and I, as a business mind saw, oh, this is like, this could be very lucrative and help a lot of people if you create iTunes and you're not trying to create an album, the place where people go to talk through these things. And as things have shifted, more and more people are like, oh, well, if these idiots can do education, I can do it. And, you know, more and more people. And then the platform itself, you know, you hear a lot of the names that you're mentioning, and it's like I've had in-depth conversations with a lot of these people saying, you should do education. Like you should do that course. You should do that thing. And like just encouraging people. And so to me, I wanted to elevate the industry, but really behind the scenes, I wanted to elevate wedding filmmaking education industry. I wanted people to say, oh, I have my 2 cents. I can do this little thing, or I can. And so that to me is what has really changed and what has gotten me to where I'm like, I think that what we're offering through How to Film Weddings is going to be good. But people, I think, want something different now. They don't want like just a bunch of BTS videos. And a lot of that I've seen change in the industry are people wanting something a little more intimate, cohorts, 20 people, in-person stuff, like a community. And that's natural, I think so. They want like the big water cooler where we can all talk and have fun and chat. But they want like personalized, how do I get past six figures? How do I, in my unique situation, what do I do? And so after hundreds and hundreds of mentor sessions and calls with people and answering some of the same things again and again, like, I just got to a point where I was just like, I think that I can, like, this kind of information. I started getting questions from other photographers and planners and people, and it was just like, this information that I want to talk about is helpful to more the wedding industry than just wedding filmmakers. And what Nick wants to really do is leaning in towards more things with filmmakers. And so for me, I just felt like I wouldn't want to like sail off into the sunset if there was nothing for people. But for me, I was just like, oh, there's so many different options for things. And I'm not going to stop. Like, I knew that I wasn't going to stop with like a weekly podcast. I just wanted to shift the focus. And so that's what I've done.
Do you feel like there are less people, like newbies, getting into wedding videography? Have you noticed like the people that you're talking to more are, 5 years in, and there's less like people that are like, hey, I'm really interested in getting into the industry. I want to learn the basics kind of thing. Have you found that to be the case at all?
Especially since 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are getting in the industry, but, and I don't know how far you want to go down this rabbit hole, but I have seen a massive drop off. I've seen a massive drop off in the market on the value that our typical wedding videography services are. And having to lower my prices for the first time in a long time. And like, it was a combination for me of like, I had stopped marketing a bunch because I was only doing how to film weddings and not John Bunn films. And, I lowered my prices for this year a little bit. And then next year I'm kind of back to where I was. But I see a lot of people, especially newbies and people in Oklahoma, like your average wedding videographer is $3,000 to $5,000. I don't know in New York or whatever, but we have lower cost of living. So like a $3,000 wedding filmmaker is like a pretty standard. And what we have seen is with content creators or photographers just adding on like a content creator, different things, it's like $1,500, $2,000 for somebody to come around with an iPhone. And so like, I think that 20 to 40% of that market, and those are just random numbers of like the average wedding filmmaker that getting going is getting stolen or taken or like readjusted to something new. And it's like the music industry changed whenever, streaming or the Netflix came out, things changed. And people were romantic about it. And it's like, no, this is how we watch TV. Meanwhile, Netflix is over here building like a quadruple billion zillionaire company or whatever. And I think that that's the shift that is happening is that people, the idea of like, you're just cinematic 6-minute film. COVID had a lot to play into that. And like people just wanting more real, it's a big world and there's still a lot of people that want all the different things, but I have seen it just be harder for people to be a wedding filmmaker as opposed to being like, I'll just be a content creator or I'll just like, so it's hard to say. I do get to see like a more macro level just with the audience that we have and surveys we put out and stuff. But I do think that it is, the amount of people that are getting into it is a lot lower. We saw the numbers of our podcast go up significantly in the last couple of years, but the willingness to spend money on more expensive education or different things had gone down, which is an indicator.
And I was going to say with that, John, is like, we see this a lot with the very few things that we monetize. Is in reality, when I talk to people who are really, established, they're doing in the terms of like, if you just rank people based on how well they're doing as wedding filmmakers, they could be doing well, but doing well as a wedding filmmaker is significantly less than doing well as a photographer and a lot of other spaces. And when you have people who are like making 110K gross, first of all, that I'm not critical of that. If you're making 110K with a private business, I mean, you're not like scot-free or whatever, but you've done a good job and you should feel good about that. But it's not like you have 5% of your gross revenue to dump into an education class.
Correct.
Like it better have massive return. And then I go to Engage and I have people making like $400,000, $500,000 shooting weddings. They don't care about dropping $30K about going to 3 events. It doesn't matter to them. That's their whole marketing budget. No filmmakers are in that boat. Not no, but almost no filmmakers are in the boat where they're just like, I got all this disposable income that I can just throw at all these different like communities and events and all this marketing. And I think like people think that everybody is just like waiting for somebody to give them something to pay for in education, but they're not. And I think that's the thing that I've seen is not only that, we had this big influx of a decrease in supply from 2021 of people who didn't double book their season out of 2020. And then there was this massive unmet demand from 2021 to 2022 where all these new people got into the industry and they're pretty good and they wiped out the whole middle market.
It was definitely like when you start to look at it, and it's crazy that it's been 5 years now since that pandemic hit or everything. And so it's like we launched our first course in February of 2020 and our 30-day like return policy ended 6 days after we shut down the country. And we didn't know what was going to happen or whatever, but like timing couldn't have been better for an educator that has online education for everybody to be sitting around getting like stimulus checks saying, oh, I'm going to, it was like it was a good year financially for education if you had built something at that point. And I watched as so many people got into the industry. So many people were just rocking and rolling in 21 and 22. And then you have this bubble that kind of bursts where people that weren't dating in 2020 because they couldn't date, there were less people getting married, so your supply went down. And then also that's kind of when content creators kind of went viral on TikTok and Instagram. It's like, oh, we can do that. And I've been watching a lot of the planners I follow will post like here's the vendor team for the day graphic. And it's like 7 out of 10 of them right now don't have video. And these are 6-figure weddings. These are people that are $200K for their wedding, nothing crazy, but that's a lot of money for your wedding. You'd expect like a video person, and so like values have shifted. I think wedding videography is very important. And I think that there's a need for it. I just think that people that are unwilling to say that it has changed are just lying to themselves.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, the education I was putting out for people that were doing wedding filmmaking in 2018 needs to be completely different because of what I'm able to watch happening. And then the other part of that supply and demand, 22, 23, the content creators, people wanting more real, that next generation coming up and saw their older sister, their older brother with like the super cinematic, crazy edits that, very like insane, which is great. I love that style. But a lot of people were just like, man, I don't, they love the point and shoot cameras, the Kodak, they just want a different thing than the generation before them had. And so you get all these little micro factors that cause a macro difference of less weddings, content creators exist, values are shifting. And so as an educator for the wedding film industry, I got to see that firsthand in 2023 and 2024, being like, hey, everybody wants this education and it was easy to sell. So a little numbers thing, just so you guys, the second year we did our mastermind group, we had 81 people sign up and we had like, it was great. And 81 people signed up. The first year, 40 something signed up. Second year, 80 something. We got ready for year 3. What are we going to do? We're going to have 3 classes of 40, and we had 42 sign up.
Yeah,
we had the most downloads. We had the most downloads we'd have, tens of thousands of downloads a month. We had the biggest audience we had. We had all the things, the email list, all the stuff, the people sending us messages and they're applying. We had the same amount of applications and it's sorry, we can't do $400 a month for this thing. And it's oh, what's going on? We just don't have money. We don't have any bookings. We don't have. And so that third year, I had to pull teeth to get 40 people to sign up. And then the fourth year of it it was more neutral. We had another 40 people. And we did 4 years of our mastermind group, but we had to lower the prices. And I'm sitting here pouring 20 plus hours a week into our mastermind group, and it's like, when you think about like the total product price of like mastermind was in like the $5,000 range for a year of weekly education, a couple mentor sessions, a couple film reviews, and an in-person retreat, which I think was a $2,500 to $3,000 ticket type event just for the retreat. Yeah. And so it's like, when you start to, it's like, oh gosh, they're just making hand over fist. It's like, just run numbers. If you have 40 people at 50, 5K, you're bringing in 200K, but you're spending 100 and some odd on a retreat. And then
just
it's like,
John,
barely.
Whenever people would say that, I would be like, I don't know, man. They had 40 people. This is their dollar amount. And this is how much the retreat, I think, probably cost. And I never assumed anybody was struggling. But I also know, like,
there was no struggle. We were all right.
You earned that money. We'll say, like, you put that wasn't like free money. That was just sitting there. That was an actual job, and it wasn't like you guys were like living in palatial mansions.
No, the year where we had 80 was awesome.
Yeah,
but I will say, like, I think you're kind of like, if anybody would know, you would know about. So I don't want to say this as a rip on the wedding filmmaking education community or the wedding filmmakers, because we both established that we don't think that they're like, you're holding out on us. Give us some money, people, we deserve it or anything like that. We know people's priorities change. The finances have changed. A lot of things, prices have gone up. A lot of situations, a lot of pressure on pricing for people. But I think we can both agree that wedding filmmakers are a challenging group of people to get to part with their money, to get to go into like mentorship relationships, and I think a lot of it's just because we haven't been trained to do it.
And they don't have the margin.
They don't have the
margin like a photographer. Like, photography workshops make a lot more sense because you're doing, the same amount of work for 3 times the price.
I mean, this, cases. John. Like, that's why you added photography, I'm sure. Yeah. But like, when you look at, like, me and Jared will go shoot a wedding, and my metrics are whatever I'm getting paid, they're getting double. That's like industry standard metric that is pretty common. It's not always true, and I think the higher you get up, that changes. But we will send a shooter to a wedding. We might get a $7,000 gig. The photographer is just this random local person who you've never heard of, who's not a big celebrity, who's not doing anything that significant, who's definitely making $12K. And has no editing, really. Doesn't have to do any of the stuff that we have to do. Has like 1/4 of the post-production. And then it's like time is money, so they have that free time to do the things and go to education. There's a lot of factors. All that to say, John, why do you think, and maybe you don't agree with me, that's fine too, but do you find that to be the truth, and why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that what Jared was saying, I think people get the value now, and they've been taught the value of, especially wedding filmmakers. But just looking at like the macro for the last 7 or 8 years, if you had like a stock market trend of like the value of, wedding filmmaking, it was like at its peak. It was, 48,000 points in 2022 or 2020. It was like at the peak. And it's like, the horse, like Gary Vee says, like somebody bought 100,000 horses the day before the Model T came out or something like that. And it's like the value of the horse went down that day. And I'm not saying that there's no value in wedding filmmaking, because there's so much value and I respect it so much and I still want to do it. I just am a realist in saying there are still people that are spending a ton, especially in the top markets. But the overarching, and I keep saying the word macro, is like that the value of wedding filmmaking is not what it was a few years ago. And so you either need to adapt, you need to add more services, you need to change how you're selling, upsell. But I think a lot of people want wedding filmmaking education. They want to be part of, like, a mastermind group like what we were doing for wedding filmmakers would have easily been $15,000 for a photography group. And it was a third of that price.
Yep. Yes.
And the hard part about it, it's kind of like whenever you get into weddings that are a little on the lower end, like when people are investing $5,000 as a wedding filmmaker, which I don't take that lightly when they're spending their
No.
money. They need that to return investment.
Yep.
And like we would try to say, hey, this is not a magic pill. This is going to be like working with a personal trainer for a year. You might see a little bit of difference this year, but you're going to have to do this for several years to see a result. And people would get in like 1 month of making payments and be like, sorry, I got to drop out. I don't have any money. And it's like, wait, what? Like, and so I just think that whenever you're hearing about all this education, you're seeing all these people doing it. You look at different rungs on the ladder of like, oh, I'm a newbie. That's different than somebody that's affording Engage. But what I've seen is just people be like, I'm going to have to use ChatGPT and YouTube. Like, that's all I can do. And they get the chicken or the egg syndrome. It's like, well, you need to invest this much to be able to charge more, but you need to charge more to be able to invest this much. And so I think that a lot of people are just kind of, I just think a lot of people are just kind of floating through being like, well, I suck. That's why I'm not booking stuff. And it's like, well, it's just different. It's not like even harder. It's just different. You've got to differentiate yourself. There's a lot of people that offer what you do, that films that you can get romantic about how great your films are, but that new guy with his camera is making something that the bride thinks looks the same. So if you're not charging accordingly, if you're not figuring out a way to differentiate yourself, you're not going to have money. You're not going to have money to invest in education. You don't have momentum in your brand. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. But wedding filmmaker specifically, whether you like it or not, I've been teaching my clients for 20 years the value of wedding video. It is important, and I do think it's the most important thing you walk away on your wedding day, from your wedding day with. People want it. The value of it goes up immediately after your wedding day more than anything. The more that you teach that and the more you train that, the market still gets to decide what's valuable. And the market looks at photo as more valuable. It's just what it is. When they hire me for video, they have been following me. I've built trust. I've built relationship. And you can do that and you can stand out and you can be a $20,000 filmmaker. It's not like it's not possible. But what I've seen is that, especially adding photo last year, guys, I'm mad at myself because like I added photo in July and I've pushed past 6 figures in my first year of doing photo with like 11 weddings, I think so, 10 weddings, 12 weddings, something like that. And I've literally shot 4 weddings so far. I've done about 40 free sessions, 10 paid sessions, a couple bridal portrait paid sessions. Like I've really enjoyed, like I've always wanted to do photo. But it's an open door for me now. Like the wedding I did last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, $28,000 was the price they paid me for video and photo, but they booked me for photo first and then added video because I was able to do a little bit of like, this is what I'm doing. And so, $15K for photo, $13K for video. Okay, we're great. And I bring in a team.
You know what's funny? Our journey is the total opposite, John. We did 50-50 photo video when we first started our business. And over the time, we just canned the photography pretty much because
I shot my last photo wedding in June. Hopefully, what is my last photo wedding? So hopefully we're not going in the total wrong direction.
It was, well, the thing was like, and I think this is the actual key point for everybody. You have to figure out what makes you unique in your market and do that.
Yep.
And it's like the thing about this industry, and this would be my answer to my own question to you, John, is like part of the problem with the wedding industry is if you're like evaluating a trend, you're already missed it in a lot of ways. Like it moves very fast. It changes every year. Everything is transforming. And so like it can be very hard to like know how to educate people in ways that are forward thinking. And what we end up doing is just showing them what has worked, which I think is great and we should do. But it's very hard to like, we were trying some stuff this year with our own video business. Certain things we're doing with like planners and the way we're packaging content and the way we're kind of combating content creators. I think it's going to work, but I'm not going to go on an education platform and tell people like, do this. I'm trying it this year. Hopefully it works for all of us. It's and I think that's been that's always a challenge when you're educating people is like, you educate people with, at least my style is like, this is what I know works. I wouldn't want to tell you to do something that I don't know works. But in reality, that's not how you run a business. You run a business, massive speculation. And it can be challenging in that way. But it is interesting that like you're adding photo, we removed photo, and it just shows like how the industry and the market and everything about people's individual businesses, there's no one size fits all. And that makes it challenging.
Yeah. I've always found it interesting, the wedding filmmakers that I talk to who are like, hey, I'm going to do this. You talk to some 25-year-old kid and they're like, I'm going to do this until I'm like 40. And then I'll probably like get into education, right? And put out a course and this kind of stuff. And I just like, now I'm like, dude, you don't even know what you're saying. Like we see it on the back end, right? It's like, there's no appetite for it. Like and especially now, it's like going the total wrong direction based on just kind of what you're saying. And I'm like, dude, we have to totally readjust not only what we're doing, but also what we're expecting for our own kind of businesses and lives. What are we going to be doing in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Is there going to be an appetite for it? And just making that adjustment, like if wedding filmmakers aren't making the adjustment and just keeping their ear to the ground, like it's going to be hard to survive like in the next 5 years. And just you're going to have to adjust a lot to just what people are asking for. And for me, it's been part of the frustrating journey is just like, hey, last year was this. People want content creators. Next year, I have no idea what people are going to be asking for. Do I really have to change what we're offering every 2 to 3 years in order to just literally survive? But it's been, an eye-opening experience.
The answer is yes, Jared.
The answer is yes. And I think we do it fairly well. But how do we even tell the industry what to be doing at this point? That's a frustrating aspect of wedding film education right now. It's just, I don't even know what to tell people.
Maybe John's next thing, he does know, by the way.
Yes.
So that's what his next thing that he's doing is he knows what we should be doing. So.
No, yeah, I agree with it, so much of what's being said. And I do want to throw it out to the listeners that like, I think there's a lot of money to be made in wedding filmmaking.
Yeah.
I think that people that are just romantic about like I've seen it now. This is starting my 20th season as of now, like doing weddings. I've just seen it where people were like, you don't need to be on Facebook. You book weddings by being at local bridal shows. And then it's like, you don't need to be on Instagram. You don't need to be on TikTok. You don't need to do this. You don't need to. And the whole landscape has changed so much since 2007, of course, to where I would only be able to market locally. Like that's all you could do. Like how would you get a destination wedding? What would you? And so I'm coming from a perspective of just like watching trends will change. And I tell people it's like the style of my films hasn't been trendy for about 10 years. I haven't tried to like chase, I'll look that way. I'll do this thing. I want clean, classic, timeless, luxury, elevated. Like those words are what describe hopefully what I'm putting out for a decade now. And I look at films from 6 years ago and I'm like, yeah, that stands. That still looks like my brand. But I think a lot of just the idea that if you're not paying attention to things that are happening around you, that you're just like, well, this is how you do wedding filmmaking. So this is what you do. This is what John said to do in 2022. So I'm doing it. And it's like, well, that was like 3 years ago. And in wedding filmmaker years, that's like 15. So like,
I feel like I'm 70.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And there's so much room whenever people get stagnant, there's so much room for somebody to come in and do things differently and do things better. And there's more opportunity than ever. AI stuff is coming out to help you edit or do different color or do whatever. And the people that's like, you shouldn't do that. That's not art anymore. It's like, I think so many people, especially wedding filmmakers, we get in our forums and groups and it's like, well, they're doing this, so I got to do this. And they don't like just think about them, what they want to be doing. Like, I want to be doing photo. That's fun. I'm enjoying that. That's why I'm doing it. It does that and it's made me a lot of money and that's a win. I need to support my family. I'm not selling out. I'm not adding content creation. I don't want to do that right now. Like it's not a thing I want to do, but I'm just looking, it's like, where do people value stuff? And if you're like, I want to do wedding films, just be aware that the perception of the mass part of the market is that it's low on the totem pole. It's just not a thing that people naturally think is a necessity for them. They look at it as, if I have room, and I'll do it. But if not, I'll just get somebody with an iPhone. It's totally fine now. I've got an option. And if you can warm up an audience and you can help them see the value in what you do, like I had Lauren Ashley Studios on my new podcast last week, and she's a big-time photographer out of Chicago, very high-end, does different things. And she was like, one of the key factors there's got to be in your brand if you want to do higher-end events is like a wow factor, celebrity status factor about your brand. Like people need to feel like, oh my gosh, John Bunn is doing the wedding. That's a big deal. Or like, I can't believe I got John Bunn at my wedding. Or, like in that kind of thing, if you're not good at that, if you're not like, I wish that you could just make good wedding films and charge a lot of money. That's what you used to be able to do. And now you can't just do that. Some people that are like the goats of the goats have been able to do that, but there's the tension between the art and the business.
Maybe 50 people in the whole world.
But the mass 98% of people and higher, it's like you've got to be on social media, you've got to be networking, you got to be building a brand, you've got to put your face on things, and that's what you have to do right now, and that might change. And so people that aren't into building the business side of it, and I always say there's like this tension on each side of your business. It's like the business and the creative, and it's like if all you're doing is being so creative and spending 3 months on one film, you're going to go out of business. But if all you're doing is figuring out how to run a business, you're going to be one of those guys that's just a cookie cutter brand that, and so there's that tension always. And I think there's a lot of money to be made and a lot of educating the market on wedding filmmaking, why it's important. But you're going to be up against the idea that wedding video is not a necessity. That don't be romantic about it. Like, how can you show your potential clients that this is valuable? What can you do? How can you start to build a narrative?
People don't make purchasing decisions intellectually, right? So I'm always a big believer that market expectations are the number one reason why people buy things initially. 98% market penetration on photography. That is the national number. And why is this? Well, it's an established thing that's been on the market since the
for 100
1800s.
Years. Yeah.
And not only that, it is established as, when it first came out, for most of the 100 years, photography was a very fine art craft. It required knowledge of film and how to do these things. Now, obviously, 70s, 80s come around, and the product becomes normalized. Video hasn't even really existed as a thing since the 80s, and so we've had this hyperspeed thing. It's never become normalized at weddings, and at the bottom of the market. And this is why I've always pushed back against the price raising methodology of a lot of what we try to tell people in spaces, because I'm like, the market isn't ready for you to raise your price. The market needs a bunch of high quality. And this is what video content creators have proven. The market wants video at a certain price. Like you're saying, they value it at $2,000. So if filmmakers don't decide to fill that demand, someone else will, and someone else did. And that is what makes markets strong. It's like a pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid has to be the fattest part of your structure. And you get to the top and you get Alex Douglas and John Bunns and people who are
put me in the same market as him.
But you're getting people like that who are making these but if you look at what they do, Lindsay and Cherish, right? They make very good films. They're very good filmmakers. But what they're even better at sales and marketing and branding. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just they have the it factor. There's a lot going on there that has nothing to do with the films. That is just, you're born with that. You have it or you don't have it. And I know people don't like to hear that, but it's just a fact. It's some of you guys will never charge $15,000 for a wedding film. You don't want to. You're not willing to do what it takes. You're not somebody will call me.
And it's just simply the market can't.
The market can't
all of you
support
people
it. There isn't enough people willing
to.
to charge it. But I remember I was talking to this guy once, and I don't know if you've had this talk, John, but he was like, well, what do I do? I want to charge more, but I'm very shy. And I said, sorry, like then you either have to cap your pricing or you got to grow. But that's it. You either have to stop being shy and go to the networking event and talk to people, or that's just me being practical. There's no other solution because there isn't a bunch of easy wins for filmmakers of just people who are like, well, I got to have somebody on my wedding film. No, people don't think that way. They either are like, oh, I've always wanted a wedding film, or I've always wanted that wedding film, or, oh, I got a little extra money. What could I buy with it? Those are the only three ways people buy wedding films. It's not like, well, we have to have florals at our wedding, and I have to have a wedding dress, and I have to have photography. We're in tier C of what's being added to wedding films.
Being aware of that is really important for people that do want to charge more. And you're right, everybody can't charge at the top. And no matter what advice you give certain people, they're not going to do the work to get to that thing. And I have a ton of people that are shy, that are yeah, I'm going to a networking event. I'm going to do a branding. I'm going to lean into my introvertedness. Great. But I'm going to put myself out there as an introvert, which feels and what I do see, it's and that's something that with How to Film Weddings, we wanted to always be careful to not just put, Lindsay and Cherish on our podcast, because they're in a different top tier percentile where most of their work is coming from planners and networking, and their work, I've watched it become some of the best work out there. Their color grading, their sound design, all the stuff that's expected in a $30,000 to $50,000 wedding film. But you look at how many weddings there are in just the States and how many of them are charged, or a wedding that's over 200, 300 grand being spent, a very high quality event that would be an entry level kind of luxury vibe that could afford a $10,000 to $15,000 wedding filmmaker. Most of my films over the last 5 years have been people that are I'm splurging. I have watched John for so long. I'm having him at my wedding. And I'm sure you guys have been to weddings where they're do that, but then they spent all their money on you and there's nothing to film. And you're what do you want me to, do here? You didn't spend money on anything except for me.
Can I tell you something, John, actually, that's really interesting about that is we have taken a totally different approach with trying to build our brand. We don't try to sell Jared and I. We have exclusively really pushed, we try to do better at that because I think you're correct. Your analysis is correct on people want to work with, they want that little parasocial relationship.
But they want the brand.
But what we try to do is go we're working with pretty much planners who are oh, I need filmmaking at this business, this one, because I need content. And I'll just get, basically the couple doesn't care at all if we're there.
Right.
We just show up and we're kind of comfortable with that and we're used to it. And but I will tell everybody out there, that is not you don't want to sign up for that relationship if you are not really good, because this client will give you nothing, but they will expect it to be a certain way. And that is not also a thing that you can show people, just be yeah, go do that. Go, we got to that position after doing 10 years of wedding filmmaking. Where we're getting the opportunities now to be invited into these events where we're just a sidecar and they just throw you on and they're just
I do feel video in general, it's a slow burn right now because I can't tell you how many people in this luxury market even, to your point, John, what is it? 7 out of 10 of these luxury events don't have a wedding filmmaker. And I'm just this is crazy. I shot a wedding over the weekend. The mom didn't want video. She thought a video a certain way of this old school annoying thing, whatever, cameras on the shoulders because she's old school. They're on a probably $25 million estate. So they have money and they spent $8-9 grand on a wedding filmmaker. But it was pulling teeth. The planner had to just advocate. The bride was Mom, I really want this. It's going to be cool. And then we deliver something and everyone is just floored. They're blown away by it.
And we're still in that place as a market.
We're still in that place it's a slow, but we have to prove ourselves. And we've now gone to the place where we're we've convinced the planner that it's very important. The planners need it. They have to have it. They see the value in it when they post photos next to video and it's just a video performs well for them. That's what they care about. The bride loves it because it's moving imagery and they're this is something that's really important. We get to see different aspects throughout the day. They're thinking about their future kids, showing the wedding film to them. And I do think that we have a little bit of that now. I talk to brides all the time, and they're like, I watched my parents' wedding film 20, 30 years ago.
Well,
we don't have the 100-year history.
Well, people love nostalgia bait. They love that stuff.
But we have now like a 30-year history, so we have something to work with, but it's taking time. It's a slow burn thing. And now you show it to mom who didn't want wedding video at all, and she's like, wow, I'm so glad we ended up doing this. And it's just going to take relentless winning of wedding filmmakers to like prove it to not only millionaire moms, but like moms that are,
It should be at every wedding. That should be the goal.
That
should be the goal of the industry. Is
Correct.
like every wedding should have wedding filmmaking.
Yep. And
But
I
what's
agree.
happened? Oh, go ahead.
I think it is changing. Like my theory right now, John, is like wedding filmmakers and content creators like are going to merge. They're already kind of merging, and it's like the content creator is going to start doing more drones, using more cameras, or maybe wedding filmmakers are going to be all filming on phones in 5 years. Who knows? Some type of device, but that's just like a technical issue. That's just like we're learning a new piece of equipment, and we're all going to be doing the same thing where it delivers content next day quickly. We've kind of structured our back end where we're going to deliver faster, and the content creators are going to deliver better quality. It's just all going to merge in the middle somewhere. But what is that middle? Where are we collectively at that point? Like, I don't know. But it's going to be somewhere in the middle, I guess.
Yeah, I could see that happening for sure. And, I've watched my friend Zadro, who's in Antigua, Guatemala. His fiance has Behind the Bride films. It's incredible. She's shooting in ProRes. She's color grading in DaVinci. Like, it's insane. And it's merging. Like, they just made a post yesterday, like, do you want me to take Zadro's films and turn them into content for you from, it's like they're just kind of merging. And there's a lot of that. And I want to talk about what you said about the mother of the bride that was, how many times have we heard that story where you're like, oh my gosh, it was like pulling teeth. And then they all love me. And now they refer me to their friends. And that's how I'm in business, basically.
Yep.
And what I learned after watching what happened with photo is if somebody comes into me with a photo inquiry, the attitude towards photography compared to video is the biggest night and day. I mean, for 19 years, I've been like pulling teeth, trying to show value. Whenever somebody inquires about photo, they're ready. They're like, we're figuring out which photographer we're going with. When they inquire with me about video, they're like, we're deciding if we're doing video for the most part, or hey, it's a planner that said, I've got a wedding date, are you available? Like, those are my bookings now for video. But if you look at that scenario with the mother of the bride, and she's like a happy camper, if you're a person that's like, how can I get people to see this? Well, maybe take her and interview her and send that video to every new inquiry. Or my mom's worried about how can you iterate? How can you come up with something different? How can you tell that story to your market so people are like, the number one thing the most undervalued thing from my wedding was wedding filmmaking. And this was how I felt before. This is how I feel after. This is why I love the film. And you've got to just nail that into people's minds again and again and again and again, and it will make a small dent in the market. We have 40 years of wedding filmmaking history, and just now I'm starting to get people, like you said, oh, I watched my mom and dad's wedding film, I have to have it. And you fast forward another 40 years with technology doing what it's doing. Obviously, a lot of us won't be in business in 40 years. We'll be old. But the idea of just understanding where we're at, the worldview of what wedding filmmaking is and how you can fit into it's super important for your success.
Yeah. I mean, we did a wedding this year that was $5 million, and they paid us $8.
Yep.
$8K.
Yep.
And they paid the photographer maybe 15, maybe 20.
Probably more. Probably like 20.
But like when you think of like people just go like, oh, this is a big event. They're of course going to have the top tier people. No. They just were like, these people are good and local. Hire them, And it's like, I think like this whole idea of like, this was my overarching theory of the whole wedding industry. I think that the luxury market was always a national and international market, but I think it's being broken down into regional markets now, and it's being divided by the regional providers. And there's obviously going to be national people that travel around and stuff. I think the destination wedding film thing is going to mostly go away. I think there's always going to be luxury people who get drawn into destination, and there's always going to be travel vlog style specialists. But I don't think like local filmmakers are going to be dragged to resorts in Dominican Republic as much anymore. I think like they're going to go there, they're going to hire locals across the world, and that's going to keep happening. And I think it's going to happen like in Boston. Like Lynn Easton comes to Boston and she's going to go, okay, who's good in Boston? Now, the thing that people don't understand about the luxury market is there is a PR side to who they hire that maybe you don't know about, which is like they wouldn't hire us because we don't have as many followers as another person that they might hire. Mm-hmm. It's true. It happens if you don't believe it. But I do think it's going to happen less and less and less. And like me and Jared, like a lot of people have no idea what we do up in Massachusetts, and the weddings we're working and what we're doing. And I'm not saying it as a brag. I'm saying it like for anyone who's like trying to think like, how do you become successful? How do you make money? How do you do this? Is like the number one advice I tell everyone is focus on being the top provider in your market. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like
that's what Ray said at Vision Quest.
He said if you're not top three in your market,
yeah. Yep.
And it's like that was great advice. I remember hearing that and going like, I think we already are, but let's make sure we are in every single area. That like nobody ever thinks like any local bride, any CEO of a Fortune 500 company who lives here, any politician, anyone driving to the Cape, anyone going to Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, all the places we provide are like, I don't know anyone else. These are the guys that make videos in this market. Yeah. So we're going to work with them. And it's worked really well. And I do think like to your point, John, and we'll wrap it up soon. I know you've been generous with your time, but to your point,
our podcasts go hour plus, John. I know
you guys are tight.
I'm here.
We're ramblers.
I'm here.
But to your point, John, like in terms of like back to education and how to film weddings and everything is like, I think you've seen maybe not exactly that analysis. And I think maybe me and you probably, I don't know if you're working the same weddings we are or how regionally everything is in Oklahoma or northern Texas or whatever. But I think like we would all agree that like, the industry has changed a lot, like we were talking about in the last 5 years, whether it be post-COVID, marriage rates going down, inflation going up, content creators, a lot of headwinds, I think, that make this challenging. I do think it's more about a transition period. And that was the last thing I was going to ask you about is like, what do you think is next in wedding film education? Like, I think we kind of touched on that a little bit, but like specifically, like what are the types of things that you think people are going to have to talk about now? Not just the ways they're going to do it and communicate it, whether it be short form contents and TikToks and all that junk. I don't know about that. But like, what's the new knowledge that you think, and maybe we can tease some of what you're going to do next, Stephen, because I think that's really interesting to me is like, what people already know. Because I think you guys have kind of invented a lot of it. but also I think you have an idea of where things need to go in terms of the types of things people need to know. And what is that?
Yeah, that's a heavy question, and I'm not a magic 8-ball or anything like that. I just have my experiences. I do see like the avenue of delivery being a lot more niched down instead of just general. Like there's just, you've got Stanton who's got his thing on like destinations, and you got Emma who's got her thing, and you've got Chris Mai who's got his thing. You've got like all these different people that have like more micro niches within the niche, which is what photography was doing 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I think we're behind the trends of photography. We kind of in that wake. So I think there will be a lot more people that just start growing followings and offering their littler things. I think there's still the need for like the big hub and the conversation and how to film weddings is actually, the Facebook group is still doing its thing. We're keeping that open. We got a lot of actual stuff potentially going on with how to film weddings moving forward. But the kind of education I think that people are needing, like there is information overload. And I think it's going to be more action based, where it's like, join this and we're going to literally show up at the gym with you and show you how to work out. There's enough videos on like how to do a bench press now where people were like, what's a bench press? I'm like, how do you not know what a bench press is? But now there's going to be like, hey, I'm taking 10 people through this workout program and we're going to do these things and you're going to be required to check these boxes. And then we're going to get together or we're going to be doing this in real life or we're going to where it's very specific. I could see that being the case. And like saying what I'm up to next, kind of talking about that. Like I knew that I wanted to keep podcasting, educating, and share my journey of adding photography and talk to more photographers and planners. And I think what was missing with How to Film Weddings is it's a lot of wedding filmmakers talking to a lot of wedding filmmakers, which is great. But like I'm good friends with like Chris Jesperson, and he's like, I don't really know that many wedding filmmakers. He's networked with the wedding industry, and Storybox Cinema is very successful because he's very good at networking with the industry and talking about this as a whole. And I think the conversation about wedding filmmaking does need to expand past wedding filmmakers talking to wedding filmmakers about it, so that you get planners on board, you get of the value of what it is. And so for me, like I wanted to create the new podcast, Shifting Focus. It's the same RSS feed as How to Film Weddings. So if you subscribe to it, you've been seeing a couple of my episodes, but I just wanted to expand the conversation and actually I'm calling it Shifting Focus because I think a lot of us focus on the wrong things. We spend all the time making this specific part of our video so perfect or our picture so perfect. And we spend no time focusing on the things that will actually get you to where you want to go. And so that's different for everybody. And so that's kind of one of the key things I'm asking people when I'm talking to them. It's like, what did you focus on that, made your business grow, that made you successful, that had nothing to do with taking the pretty photo? What was your focus? How can you help people see that just taking a course doesn't do anything without action? And so you can go get really fat with education and never do anything with it. And so, next step for me, I'm not trying, like How to Film Weddings, we wanted to kind of elevate the industry and it became a very big platform. I don't know the numbers that will happen with me not being How to Film Weddings. And they've been more than what How to Film Weddings was getting. But I'm more interested in finding the hundreds of people or tens or dozens or whatever of people that want to learn from me specifically about what I'm doing and are attracted to the type of business that I'm running, more so than being like, I need to create this thing that wedding filmmakers feel like there's a voice for education. I feel like we've done that. And so that's for me. It's like I can see myself doing 20 or 30 person mastermind groups or like smaller in-person things or workshops or different things like that. And I've got some things up my sleeve, of course, for next year already, but that's kind of, I don't know if that answers the question.
No, I think it does because I
questions.
think what you said is what I think as well, which is I think niching down in terms of like people who want to learn to do certain things. I think that is it. But I also think kind of what I was saying about being hyper regional, with a lot of things. I think that works into the same like online fatigue people have, the lack of real accountability, the lack of real conversations and authenticity that can happen when you put up basically an avatar of yourself. Me, like I'm in a Facebook group. The way people think I am is 100% different than what I actually am like. And if you're not actually working with me, you don't understand what I'm like, and like, that's the case with everyone. And I think education moving away from like, kind of like, hey, here's this buffet of knowledge that you pick from. And it's finite, by the way. It's like, people are like, oh, cameras are so much better now. It's like, I've been doing this for 15 years. I don't do anything significantly different with my camera now than I did 15 years ago. I have a gimbal. That's it's better. It's easier. But it's not way different. Like, I still need to teach shutters. I still white balance my camera the same exact way. I still expose my image the same exact way. I still can't have bouncy motions, like all the things that you need to do. It's not that much knowledge. It kind of ends quickly. And where things get complicated are running a business, building a brand, getting into sales. Like I don't know. You've seen this a lot, probably, John, but like people who are like, "Why can't I grow my business?" And then you talk to them, and you're like, "Because you're not a nice person." Like,
or whatever.
or like I'm just saying something that you would not
Yes.
say to that person.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to write a class called like "Be Nice." Maybe you would, but but it's like that's a personal conversation that needs to be had with that person about their conduct or what they're doing. And it's like I think there's a hunger for real conversations, real connections, like where you can go to someone and be like, "I got it." Did you see that post by Catherine Magic the other day?
I see a lot of her posts. I'm not
The one about how she has like no money and like she's struggling and all these things. And I was looking at that and I was like, I mean, I don't know her well, so I don't know the situation, but I remember thinking like, I'm happy that she felt like she was able to talk to people about that. And I remember thinking like, that is more of what people need. Is not necessarily like a big platform and a post or whatever. That's fine that she wanted to do that. But there's a lot of other people who actually need to say that same thing to someone. And they don't have a platform. And they don't have the ability, like if they posted that, nobody would even hear it or see it. And they need to be saying to someone like, hey, I've been working my butt off since 2021 and my business isn't growing. That's a very, very, like we've talked a lot about the macro today, but in reality, wedding filmmakers are very much working in the micro. The individuals who are listening to our show, who are paying attention to these things. And I think it's hard to address, but I do think you're right that probably the next move in our industry will be to better address people's individual needs and to help them actually grow in a more customized, bespoke way. And yeah, I know it's interesting that like these things become self-evident when you're in the industry long enough and you just see it and it's like happening around you. And in some level, like, I don't know how you feel, John. Me and Jared sometimes feel like we're just hanging on to like the back of a boat and someone else is steering it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, and I think like you just got to ride the wave.
That's it. You're surfing, man. It's just, what's the wave doing? And you're reacting to it. That's all. That's being a wedding filmmaker. Yep.
In a nutshell, yes.
So, John, I know you kind of covered it a little bit, but like, kind of outline what your next platform looks like, what people can expect on a regular basis,
specifically
like,
where it is too.
where it is, share all the socials, kind of give us the full rundown of what's happening, and if you want to share, what some of those things are specifically, like courses or whatever, we'd love to hear that too.
Yeah. So Nick and I have said like we've had a very amicable divorce, and
But mom
Nick
and dad
I
still
are-
love each other.
we're still taking care of things for the
Yeah.
kids, kind of. And I say that cheekily. If you're dealing with divorce, I'm sorry, but we have like kind of divided certain assets up based off of like who really wanted to do what. And so like if you subscribe to the How to Film Weddings podcast, I got the podcast. That was part of what I got on the, the splitting of assets. It's like, so if you search How to Film Weddings, you can still find the podcast. I've renamed it to Shifting Focus. And Nick got like our YouTube tutorial channel. He had been building that. So like he's renamed that and he's dealing with that. But as for right now, I've just created johnbunn.com or john-bunn.com. I'm looking at a couple of URLs. It's still early. I mean, we're recording in August and, I've had 3 episodes go out. But I'm committed to still weekly education. The main thing I really wanted to shift focus on was it's a wedding filmmaker's perspective with conversations with photographers, planners, kind of getting a little more insight into what they're seeing in the industry. And so that's still a 30 to 60 minute weekly episode. I've got some ideas for just some kind of micro content on the Thursdays of each week, little answering one question here or there, little life updates, different things like that. But it's moved from being like a How to Film Weddings brand to John Bunn, the educator, and what he's going through, and just me being the personal brand. And that's changed a lot of things. The specific products that I use, different companies have reached out. So I'm creating more content, like why I love using Imagine AI for photo editing, or why I, enjoyed such and such. And so I'm creating a lot more content just about like how I'm building and how I've built a, $400,000 business for this year. And what does that look like? And just the real life, no fluff, just a little more me centric personality. And so that the podcast is that once a week. The YouTube channel, we had 2 different YouTube channels. One of them was just our podcast channel. I got that as well. So, YouTube is still / how to film weddings. And I mean, everything is findable on the john-bunn.com. And I don't love the dash there in the middle, but that's what I'm living with right now, because it was $8,000 to get John Bunn, and I don't want that. But
you're
as
rich.
far as what's
Sean, you've been taking everyone's filmmakers' money for all these years. Well, how could...
Yeah, I stole everyone's content and repackaged it on my own, and that's what I did. Like it's like stealing someone teaching math. Hey, I knew addition first. It's like,
And
wait
also,
a second.
those same people are like, when they want to sell something, want to go on the show. So
Yeah, that's a different episode. That's the After Dark episode where I
comment.
vent about all the failed entrepreneurs that want to hate me.
Yeah.
But let's clip that out. No, I'm kidding. I'm also really into in-person events. I did a workshop in April in Oklahoma. I had 25 people show up to it. It was $1,000. I was able to put on, styled shoots and education for the day. Like, I really dug that. I'm about to announce one that's up you guys' way here later this fall. And then I've got a couple more that are coming up, just like in-person, one-day product. And I'm also putting together some multi-day products where it's like, kind of get away, kind of retreat. And then I'm just in the beginning phase of toying around with like what a 20 to 30 person mastermind group would look like for people that are right at the 6-figure range and beyond. I've done a lot of content for people that are kind of in their first few years. And the people I've talked to that are like, hey, I'm making 150K. I'm trying to get to that next level. What do I do? Or I'm right at that 6-figure mark. I don't know exactly how I'm going to market it, but people that aren't just brand new and getting a room of 20 people a week that aren't just filmmakers, but it's filmmakers and photographers, maybe a planner or two, to come together and do a cohort that's a 3 or 4 month thing with some type of in-person event at the beginning or the end or the middle of it. So I'm still working on that kind of stuff. And that's the thing I'm kind of gauging. I'm actually putting out a survey today. So by the time this goes out, people will have seen it, but a survey where it's just like you fill in information. I'm giving away a bunch of stuff with a lot of my sponsors and trying to like get a gauge on like what people want. We did this last year and had 800 or so wedding filmmakers fill it out.
Wow.
And so it just gives me a lot of data points on like how much you're charging, how long you've been doing this. And so I can know the kind of content that will help people. But I'm giving away like a Mini 4 drone and a bunch of stuff from Music Bed and Moneymaker Holdfast camera straps, and Imagine's doing stuff, and Bride and Groom's doing stuff. Like a bunch of, there's like, $8,000 worth of free stuff just as like a, hey, sign up. I'm picking one person that fills out this survey to win all this stuff, kind of entice people to give me basic info. I'm not going to ask for your address. I'm just going to ask
Where's the link?
for,
Where
like,
can
what,
people sign up?
City. It'll just be johnbunn.com/survey
Great.
or John-Bunn. But I should call it johnbunn.com/John- or john-bunn.com.
Can you do
that
John.
rolls off the
Bunn?
tongue. I wish. I have bought shiftyourfocus.com or Shifting Focus podcast. I'm still figuring out things. And that's something that I'm more confident in myself than I was when we started. It's like I'm still figuring a lot of stuff out, and I'm okay to tell people that. But the education, we've had 3 episodes so far as the time of recording this. I've got like 6 recorded in the can, and they're so good. Conversations with really amazing photographers, planners, filmmakers still, of course. And so those are the big things that are coming up. And I'm finalizing all the details on a handful of new sponsors. And I'm just excited to be putting out content. I do have some behind the scenes stuff, but it's in a little bit different of a way. So just looking at ways to put myself out there, but not needing to be like the biggest platform for it. And it's like the people that want to follow, that really love the brand that I'm putting out there, that's who I'm making content for now.
That's awesome. Well, I just wanted to say, appreciate that you gave us your time, come on the show. It's definitely, I think, an important topic because, like I mentioned before, like, you know, I'm not just blowing smoke up your butt, like, where I think it's like important or was important or still is important. I think whether you listen to the show or not, if you're a wedding filmmaker, you knew and it made an impact one way or the other. Like it changed. I think about someone like Max Smith, you know, or my assistant right now, Sammy Deppen, you know, and I'm like, I don't know that they would be doing anything if they didn't. I mean, I think they would. They're talented. I shouldn't say that, but I do know like it was an impact on their life and like they're part of my life, you know, and what they're doing is very much impacted by what happened. And so I just think it would be like kind of irresponsible not to talk to you about it because of what it's been to people. And I think your analysis of what you guys, the impact you had is accurate.
The industry is so small. I think I was just always glad to have How to Film Weddings as that hub to create. I mean, we always talk about it. Like, what are the industry standards, man? Like, how are we going to make everyone's life easier? Not just by education, but like, what is everyone doing? How are we all hooking up audio? So when we all talk to a DJ, the DJ already knows the drill. The planner already knows the drill because we're all doing something very similar. We're not just like showing up and we're like, I'm going to have a boom mic. And everyone's like, what? That's crazy. Like, no, there's certain industry standards of just like, you don't do it that way because it's not the most efficient way to do it. And I think How to Film Weddings kind of created and paved a lot of those roads. So I would just want to say thank you. Thank you for the work that you guys put in and just, you know, killing it and time and effort and labor of love and all the stuff that you guys have put in. And, you know, I'm hoping the best for both you and Nick moving forward.
I'm thankful you guys made money too, by the way.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
thankful for that because that you proved a concept.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'll just say as my final little thought here is it's like I look back down the mountain that I'm climbing in the last 8 years, and it's like I see so many people coming up behind us that I feel very honored. We were not the first ones to do education. We're not like the godfathers of education. We don't think that. We just were like, we tried to fill a need. But we look back at the whole of the almost 8 years of doing it and made a lot of mistakes. I've watched and listened to some of the first episodes and I'm like, oh man, I hope people came back because I don't think they would like me if they, like whatever. And just all the things, the good, the bad, when you create something, you step on people's toes, you don't mean to, you're moving fast, you got all this pressure on you and all these people expecting things, sponsors expecting things, you're trying to make money so you can spend more time doing it. And so I think like for me, the most proud is just that we did create something that now has opened the door for so many people. And I feel like really what, kind of putting bookends on this, like I felt like we were almost starting to get in the way of people becoming what they could be because it's like, well, if How to Film Weddings is doing this is like the top of what can be being done. And it's like, we wanted to get out of the way and say, hey, like run, like who wants to create stuff. Like it was good for what it was, but if the video industry is going to grow, like there needs to be more education, more people saying their voice, like more micro content, more, little, if you think about how many photography courses there are or how many photography groups, I mean, it's just like, there's thousands and thousands. And I would say there's maybe a dozen wedding filmmaking things. And it was just like, we've done what we needed to do here. I didn't want to like push to season 8 and 9 of The Office with it. And it was just like, you know what? Like, this is good. This is the right timing and doors closed that needed to and doors open. And I've just been really excited to walk through the doors I've been walking through, and who knows where it's going to go for me. But I've gotten a lot of really good feedback from people that I think that are the exact people I need to be teaching these days. Mm-hmm. And whether that is still tens of thousands of people or if it's thousands or hundreds or dozens or a handful, I'm just like trying to answer the call that I feel like is on me to do. And I would have made more money probably if I would have just stuck in my lane and done my own video and photo stuff. You know, it's like I've made good money doing education, but it's like that's not the number one factor in doing it. My number one factor is someone like Max Smith sending me a message after, you know, we turned off the last episode in tears, sending me an audio message just like, you guys have changed my life. My family's benefited from this. Like, I don't know what to, like, you know, so many messages like that. And I don't want that feeling to go away selfishly for me of helping somebody. I don't want the feeling of knowing that the industry is better because of me. So I'm sticking around, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thanks for your time. If you are a listener to this show, then like it, subscribe it, do the podcast things and the YouTube things. But also go check out what John's doing. And, you know, I mean, for better or worse, everybody that's trying to do this is trying to help people, and it's freaking hard. So any support you can give to people, even if it's just clicking a like button, makes a big difference in their life. And I know people ask you to do that all the time on social media, but come on, guys. There's like 10 of us in the world. We got to help each other. So we appreciate any support you give us. And, of course, go support what John's doing. Or don't support either of us. Do whatever you want. But at the end of the day,
We're all going to die soon.
yeah, we're all gonna die. I mean, it's whatever.
All right. Let's take a
Go eat a
turn.
good sandwich.
Yeah.
Like the end. But enjoy the show, and of course, like I was saying, go check out what John's doing, and we'll be back whenever we decide to post again on the Wedding Film School show.
Thank you guys so much for having me.